It's Valentine's Day, and this lover girl is 3,000 miles away from her love. CWM. You've seen GRWM, but have you heard CWM? It means cry with me. Hi there. Welcome to Gist with Dotun the Girl. On this podcast, I share interesting life lessons that I am learning from personal experiences in a very relatable way. In this season, I will be sharing my experience as a long distance lover girl, and I will also have perspectives from other people in long distance relationships. Expect new episodes once a month and enjoy this one you're about to listen to. Hello, lover girls and lover boys. You will notice that I've changed my greeting from lover girls and the men who love us to lover girls and lover boys because it's not only women that should learn to love openly, expressively, and affectionately. Men should too. Okay? So today, your girl is 2 weeks from 6 months of long distance relationship. February 29 will make it 6 months of the hardest part of my life as a girlfriend. And I'm here to give you the gist because this is gist with Dotun the girl, no? So if you've listened to any of my previous episodes in last season, you know that I'm not stingy with the tea at all. Like I bear it all, I spill it all. So get comfortable and enjoy all I'm gonna share with you. Before I get into this, let me first say why I am doing this. Like, why am I spilling my business on the internet? One, I have gleaned so much wisdom through this season that I believe it is important to share. Two, I really owe my success in this season to my decision to ditch the hard girl life. And since I shared that whole process with you, it only makes sense to keep you updated on how it's working for me. Three, this one is very important. I think that not enough people are talking about the things I'm about to talk about. This is why you're here, because I give exclusive gist. At some point, I started to think that I was the one with the problem. Maybe I'm doing something wrong with this whole long distance thing. But then again, I thought that no matter how terrible I am, I can't be the only one experiencing things the way I am. Even if it's not the general narrative, I'm sure there are a few people out there who can relate with what I'm going through, how I'm going through it. So, this episode is for people who have been in or who are currently in, who will soon be in a long distance relationship. I'm just trying to be a voice for the people. Okay? Dotun for president. That said, let's go. I'll start with um my own story, how I ended up in this quagmire. The build up to this um transitioning into this phase, what I heard about long distance relationships before I got into one, and my current perception and experience of a long distance relationship. So that is that about that. Okay, before I start my gist, one more thing. I need to address the misconception that long distance is easier on the person that relocates or that it's easy on the person that travels. I don't think it's true because think about it. This person is transitioning into a new season of their lives, which means that they have like a great need for emotional support, and the person or the people that they are safe with are just not physically present. So it's not easy. Like it's not a walk in the park because you are the one um leaving the other person. And I'm not discrediting the difficulty of being the one left behind. No, because I have been on that side as well. And I know how hard it is when there are many physical reminders of a person that you miss. So I know that both realities are hard, but there's no need to diminish one or belittle one to validate the other one. So that said, let's go into my story. Y'all know that I'm booed up. I I love my life. I love my boyfriend, and um, we had always seen this part of our relationship coming, right? Before he asked me out, like when we were having those talking stage conversations, I had already said that I am traveling for school after NYC. Like that's a major plan, a major next step for me. NYC is the compulsory service that Nigerians have to do after university. So I let him know that a master's was in the plan for me. So then also between when he finally asked me out and when I finally answered, I was preparing for GRE, that's like graduate school exams, and he was aware of this like all through that process. And a month after we started dating, I took the exam. He was at my gate by 6 a.m. to take me to the train station because I took the exam in a different state. So he was there the day before, took me to the train station. Um, but was just really present. And then after exams, it was application season, time to send in those statements of purpose, do all of that school hunting, scholarship application. And he was just really by my side through all of that. I mean, sometimes I'd even ask him to stay up with me to keep me awake because I was going to work during the day and working on my applications at night. And he would like just be there keeping me company. He even has some forbidden screenshots of me sleeping off while working on an application. So yeah, we had always seen it coming. And now that I think about it, the whole of our relationship was really a build up to this. Like we knew we were going to get to this long distance point. And on my part, from experience and from hearsay, I knew that it wasn't going to be peaches and cream. It wasn't going to be a walk in the park. What do I mean by hearsay? Two very dear friends of mine who both weathered the storm of long distance dating, and are happily married now. When I told them I was applying for school abroad, like I told them different times, separate conversations, they both said, "Oh, have you thought about the fact that this is going to put you in a long distance relationship?" Like they just wanted to make sure I had an idea of what I was getting into. Um, and I did. I actually knew what I was getting into. I knew what it was going to test in me. I knew what I knew I could foresee what my challenges were going to be. And this is something I touched on briefly in my first episode of the last season when I was talking about being a hard girl and all of that. One of the reasons I became a hard girl in the first place was to block out the discomfort of missing people, like that disappointment that comes from not having someone present when you need them the most. So I knew I was going to face that disappointment again. I had enough self awareness to know that the season I was stepping into was going to require courage to keep my heart open, knowing fully well that it was going to break and break and break again. um I knew that the success of my relationship depended heavily on this decision to stay open hearted, and I made that decision even before I left. I decided that that was something I was going to do, because I always tell myself that to block out the pain is to block out love, but true love will always be worth the pain. So stay open hearted. And the first time I found myself like recounting these words to myself, or like saying these words to myself over and over again, where or was the first time I met my niece sometime January 2023, and I had to say, like, I had to say goodbye to my niece that I love very dearly. And I was a wreck. I was in so much pain. I was just crying all the way back home. But um I just told myself I'm not going to shut out this pain. I'm not going to switch to indifference because I'm trying to protect myself. Like, I will go through this pain if that's what I have to experience to continue to love her in the way that I do. So, yeah, true love would always be worth the pain. Speaking of true love, let me go back to my gist that I was sharing. So, we knew from the onset that long distance was going to happen at some point, but reality began to set in when my admission news came in. I mean, it was great news. I had been waiting for it. I had gotten a couple of rejections, so it was a breath of fresh air. But that also meant that the countdown to the inevitable had begun. And for context, we were in a very short distance relationship. Of course, not cohabiting, but we were in the same city, we attended the same church, and sometimes we saw each other every other day. For more context, my biggest tantrums were usually as a result of not spending enough time together in the same physical space. So I avoided it as much as possible. Like, I avoided distance as much as much as work would allow. In fact, the month before I left, we were together almost every day because I had stopped working to prepare for my trip, and we were almost always together. We're just trying to milk as much time as we could, and we were coasting. Things were good. We had very few or no arguments because time was too precious. Can't be fighting a few weeks to when I'm going to leave for God knows how long. And then that month as well, we had our first anniversary as a dating couple, and then it was his birthday a few days before I left. So we were on a high. We were on a high really. And um as we spent time together, I I could sense I could sense that he was in denial and he wasn't ready to process what we were about to step into. And the reason I could sense it is because I had been on his own end of the spectrum before. So I tried to prep him for what we were getting into. Um, but well, as the class captain and senior citizen of long distance relationships that I am, I I said some very nice motivating words. I said some days will be very hard, you know, you will cry. He said cry? I said, yes. So, I can see that it has not hit you yet, but when it finally does, please don't shut me out. Make sure you carry me along. And he asked that I should do that even if you are busy with schoolwork. And I said yes. Um, I said yes because I had been there before, and I know too well the significance of those moments um, when hurt rushes at your heart in waves. What you do, how you respond in those moments is very critical to the health of your relationship in general. So, well, while somebody was being living in denial and being a hard guy, I was not. I started shedding my tears 2 weeks in advance of my departure. I sent my friend a video where I was just crying because I felt like I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for the move. So that was 2 weeks before. Then a couple of days before I left, my goodness, the tears started coming in torrents. The night before I left my city, so I didn't travel directly from my city. I first of all flew out of my city to another city. um so the night before I left my own city was supposed to be the last time I was going to see him. He said that he didn't want to come with me to the airport the next day because he didn't know how how it would affect him. And well, that was fair. I might have done the same thing if tables were turned. So he was with me in my house till like very late in the night, and when it was time for him to go, I hugged him like my life depended on it. um Said goodbye, locked my gates, went inside my house, found the closest chair to the door. I just sat there and bawled my eyes out. My goodness, I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain. And I didn't even know if I was going to stop crying. I was just crying for like 10 minutes. And I would have been there for longer had God not intervened in my life and situation through a phone call from one of my aunties. And the good thing is that the person that called is like the only auntie that I'm comfortable enough to talk to about how I'm feeling or stuff like that. So she asked, "Oh, how are you doing? Get ready for your trip and all of that." And I just said, "I'm not fine. I'm not fine." As a matter of fact, I was in a terrible mess of tears literally 1 second before you called. And so I was just glad that I could talk through that with somebody. And I need to mention here that this was a huge milestone for me. Like just being able to share with somebody that I am not fine, I'm not okay. When I was a hard girl, I would have just pretended that I was okay, and I'll have adjusted the pitch of my voice to feign excitement. I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. You just wipe your tears and say, "Oh hi, yes, I'm fine, thank you," as if your life was not just about to end 2 seconds prior. But yeah, I had grown beyond who I was to the point where I could be vulnerable with somebody. And I also wouldn't have sent my friend the video 2 weeks earlier if it was old, if it was hard girl Dotun. I would just have suffered in silence, carried my cross alone, and all of that. Anyway, back from my digression. So thanks to that phone call, I made it through the night, and the next morning I continued from where I stopped. I'm not sure whether it was water or tears that I used to wash my face in the shower that morning. But God had mercy on me again because um the love of my life, my knight in shining armor, my one and only sugar in my tea, just sent me a text. Or was it a text or called and said, guy, come and open your gates. I'm outside. I was so happy, guys. I was so happy. Ah, I don't know. Um, yeah, I had thought that the night before was like the last time I was going to see him, and even though it was just for a few more hours before I finally left, it made a difference that he decided to um put his own his own sorrow aside and follow me to the airport. So all was well in my little world for the next couple of hours. Mind you, this was not my flight out of the country. Like I said, just the flight out of my city. I didn't fly out of Nigeria till the next day. And from when I left my city to when I left Nigeria, I wasn't alone. I had a couple of aunts with me, a couple of aunties with me. So I didn't have the privacy to scatter body as I would have loved to. But fast forward to the morning I was to leave. The second that I was alone, hey, come and see crying. Come and see tears. I was a mess. I was a mess. And at this time it was not even about um leaving my boyfriend anymore. It wasn't about that alone. It was everything. I was leaving the town, the place I grew up in, born and bred in this city. I had never left. I had a church family, I had friends. It was a life I knew. So it really wrecked me, like um just saying goodbye to all of that. On the plane as well, I think it was a 6 hour flight, 6 7 6 7 hours. I spent I spent the first 2 hours just crying. Then afterwards, I decided to watch a movie. I thought it would be best to watch a rom com because I wasn't ready to stop crying, but I also wanted to feel lighter. So I figured that seeing other couples happy would make me sad because they are living the life that I cannot live. And then seeing or experiencing the comedy would make me laugh. So I had like a nice combination of sadness and laughter in a rom com. I decided on Love Again story. This movie with Celine Dion and Priyanka Chopra. The lead character opens her heart to love another person after tragically losing her boyfriend. And at the end of the movie, let's just say I was not sad at all. I was not sad. I was actually full of gratitude because I realized that long distance isn't the worst thing that can happen to a person. I mean, I saw from the movie somebody was literally grieving her dead boyfriend, and my boyfriend is alive and well to the glory of God. So I just snapped out of it. It was the pick me up I needed. Um, told myself to stop whining like a baby and get my act together, and I did. The rest of my flights was very cheerful. I had an interesting conversation with the guy that sat next to me, and that shifted my focus to why I was traveling in the first place and all the possibilities that were waiting for me. So by the time I landed, there was no room for tears, just excitement. I was just really delighted and grateful and hopeful. So yeah, that's the story of the first half. I wish I could say that um that's how things stayed since I landed up until now. That feeling of excitement and no tears, but such has not really been the case. Hi there, thank you for listening and following through so far. I just want to take a few moments to talk about something important. You must have heard me talk about my self awareness and my process of growing from a hard girl to a lover girl. And I want that for everybody or anybody that feels like that is something they need to experience, like coming to understand themselves better and to know the things that affect how they show up in relationships. So I replicated my process in a journal with over 60 reflection questions and writing prompts and affirmation to help anybody that wants to embark on that journey of just embracing love and embracing life as a lover. So whether you are a girl or a boy, there's a journal for you, lover girl journal, a lover boy journal. You can find out more about it in the show notes below. Thank you. My experience so far has been nothing short of a roller coaster. The first month was a mix of many things. So settling into school in a different country with different people was something, and I was just grateful to have his support throughout that process. I would call to let him know how my day went, what I found challenging, what I was happy about, what I was proud of. He was just like a really good companion through all of that. However, we were often annoyed at each other for not being readily available when either of us wanted to talk. We were missing each other's calls so much, it became an issue. Um, it was really just hard for us to transition from a very face-to-face short distance relationship to a completely virtual one. And prior to this time, phone calls were not really our thing. We spent time together in the same space. That was our MO. And I was used to piling my gist for when we see, and I had to transition to when we talk. And then when I want to talk, he's nowhere to be found. This cycle was so annoying. My mood would just go sour, and at those times when I would just be bummed, I used to say, now why I no one love with this? Now why I no one love with this? Soft girl no dey pay anybody. Hard girl for life. But unfortunately, when you cross that bridge from hard girl to soft girl to lover girl, I don't know, there's no going back. But it was upsetting. I'm like, why will somebody else's actions have such a great impact on my feelings? We're having a review shortly after this whole saga, and I told him this, that um I prefer being a hard girl because I do not like being affected so much by his actions. And then he asked if I would have preferred it if I was still single, like if I had left Nigeria as a single person. And my instant answer was no. I mean, if I wasn't booed up, which one of my friends or my family members would I mandate to pick my call every day and listen to my life updates without getting tired? My friends have their own boyfriends and husbands, and they couldn't have been there for me in the way that my own man was there for me. So I guess that made the hassle worth it. Towards the end of the year though, I realized I had to come to the point of realization that I was expecting and demanding too much from him. I wanted him to be at my beck and call, available whenever I needed somebody to talk to. And honestly, that's just unnecessary pressure on a human being. Only God can be that for anybody, you know. So, um, that's the average version of my story, the build up to my long distance and how it has been going so far. Now I want to get into it. That was intro. I want to now talk about the things that I had heard about long distance relationships before I started, and what I feel about those things now that I am in a long distance relationship. First thing I heard, or maybe not the first thing, but the first thing I'm going to talk about, um, they said it is not as bad as you think. I, Dotun, disagree. I disagree. For me, it is as bad as I thought it would be. Being physically away from a person you love dearly for an extended time is really hard and painful, and I honestly don't wish it on anyone. But many people will go through it because of the way things are now. But long story short, it's hard. It's hard. Another thing I heard was it gets easier with time. In a sense, I would say it does. I mean, I'm not crying as much as I used to at the in the early stages of this phase. Some days though, waves of emotion hits me like out of nowhere, but they are fewer and farther between than they were when I first moved. But even this is a bit worrisome, because you then start to wonder that if being away doesn't hurt as much anymore, does this mean you don't love them as much as you did before? If you're learning to go through hard seasons without them um being there every second the way they were before, does this mean that you are growing to a point where you don't need them anymore? These are the kind of questions that plague my mind every once in a while. Being in an LDR, I'll just say LDR because long distance relationship is a mouthful. Being in an LDR involves a lot of mental gymnastics, and nobody prepared me for this part. Um, I think the worst of the mental torture I've experienced is when there's when there's silence on the other side, like a non-replied message or an unacknowledged missed call. And I start wondering, is it me? Is it them? Are they mad? Are they busy? Did I say something? Did I not do something I was supposed to do? Da da da. Ugh. But when I realized that I was slowly becoming an anxiously attached lover, I had to catch myself and call myself to order. If you don't know about the attachment styles, I guess it's something that you might want to just read up. There's the anxious attachment style, avoidant attachment style, and the secure attachment style. So that's just by the way. I had to call myself to order and just tell myself that, you know what, each person is responsible for their actions, and his own actions are not reflective of me as much as they are of him. There's nothing wrong with me, and my relationship isn't in jeopardy because somebody has not replied my text. Okay. Another thing I heard is that you need conviction for your LDR to work. This one I endorse with my full chest, my full being, the entirety of me. You need conviction. Let me share a quick story. So one night last year, I was slightly upset. I can't recall what about. Um, but right before I went to bed, as my head was about to hit the pillow, I heard, Dotun, why don't you just do it? I said, do what? Do what? I asked my Lord. Imagine my shock at the response I got. Like, why don't you just break up? Eh? I was just like, um, what have we carried? What have you thrown? Kilagbe, kileju. Where is this coming from? um, but yeah, like the Holy Spirit just continued like, why are you subjecting yourself to constant disappointment if you can just end it altogether? Like, you won't be the first to experience a public breakup. Like, people have ended relationships that are older and more public than yours. And even if you do, you won't die single. You both would heal. You would find other people to love. So, what exactly is stopping you? Why are you choosing this person? Hmm. This is how I sighed. Oh, I heaved and I sighed. And then I reflected on our history, like the history of our relationship, why I said yes in the first place, what we have been through together, how how this guy has shown up for me and just supports me, how he compliments me, what we are both dreaming of, our plans. After I ran through all of this in my mind, I just came to the conclusion that what what we had is worth fighting for, and what we are looking forward to is worth the temporary challenges and affliction that we are going through. You know, there's that Bible verse that says, your afflictions are lightweight in comparison to the glory that is coming, or something like that. So that was where I landed the matter in my head before I went back to bed, or before I went to sleep. And I slept with my chest much lighter that night. And that conversation with God was so important for me because little did I know. If you're still with me at this point, just say, little did she know. Little did I know that a storm was coming. Like, the next couple of weeks were were the hardest for me. Like, at that point, the hardest. They were almost unbearable. And if I hadn't anchored myself that night, if God had not brought me to that place of putting my feet down to say, I've chosen this person and I'm going to go the long haul, I don't think I would have made it through that challenge. And I don't mean I don't think I would have made it in the sense that I would have ended the relationship. I mean, I would have I would have switched off emotionally, and I'll have just stopped caring or stopped trying. Like, the decision I had made earlier to stay open hearted, it might not have lasted past that point, because I was this close to closing off my heart to protect myself. And the fact that I didn't do it then, and the fact that I haven't done it, like, I haven't done this every other time the temptation has come up, is my biggest testimony, actually. That I have stayed open hearted, I have stayed loving through all of this, despite being hurt at different times. Guys, I'm a lover girl. I'm a lover girl for real, for real, for real, for real. So, shall pray for me. Pray for me that God will preserve me in His love, and that my love would abound more and more. And I also pray for you listening to this, whoever you are, wherever you are, that God will shed His love abroad in your heart, and He would grow your capacity to love deeply and love well even when it hurts. Anywho, on a lighter note, when I was asked that question, the question about why am I picking my babe, why am I choosing my babe, I had a couple of funny responses. First, I was just like, God, please take a look at my life right now. Take a look at the intensity of my life, school, and everything. I honestly cannot afford a heartbreak. I don't have time to mourn a relationship. I'm in my ambitious woman on a mission season. That's where I am. And I cannot allow any heartbreak to slow me down. That's one. Two, where I want see man, are they plucking them from tree that if I drop one, I will just pick another one? Have you seen the dating market recently? Good men are scarce, so let me just hold on to the one I have. Please, 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 and thank you. Okay. Anyway, I wasn't being completely serious. Maybe just like a tinge of seriousness, but um these two reasons are never enough reason for you to stay in a relationship that is obviously not good for you. If you are in such a situation and the only reason that you are still staying is because you don't want to get your heart broken, or you're afraid that you wouldn't find another person, please, please, please count your losses and just move on. You will heal. You will find love. You will find a love that is good and right for you. Don't settle for what is less than best if it's not serving you. Okay. And writing on the back of conviction, I should quickly add that conviction is strengthened when you are with somebody whose honor God can defend. I said somebody whose honor God can defend. See that I did not say somebody whose honor you can defend, because you will question you will question your partner's character in a long distance relationship, because you're not with them. You don't know why they're acting the way they're acting. You don't know whether they're being honest. hmm. There was a time I told God, I said, God, this your son is not a good person. Because a good person will not behave like this. Will not do the thing that this person is doing. And God said that. Don't you know that's not true? Um, my son's heart is right towards you, and that is what matters. Any action you have a problem with, like any traits that you think you have a problem with, they can be corrected because his heart is right towards you. So um it just makes it easier when you have somebody that god God himself can vouch for. Yeah. And now that I'm talking about God, I should just even add that one big flex of a godly relationship, whether it's even long distance or short distance, is having God as your messenger. You can send God on errand. Not in a disrespectful way, but yeah. I mean, who needs 5G data connection when you can see? My goodness, I'm so dramatic. I say crazy things. Ah, I mean, I've told God once, say, God, tell your son to get away from my life and he should never come back. What I actually meant, and of course, God delivered the true intent of my heart. He did not deliver that one. What I meant was, God, please, let me beg your son. Tell him to call me. Tell him to call me urgently. T for thank you. Okay? And it worked. It worked. Trust me when I say having God as a messenger is a big flex. If you are a child of God and you are dating somebody that is not a child of God, that doesn't have the Holy Spirit, and doesn't obey the voice of God, I think you are shortchanging yourself. You are cheating yourself, and I don't envy you. I do not want to walk in your shoes. I do not like the color of your shoes. Your shoes do not fit me. I do not want them. As a matter of fact, as a fellow child of God, I call you out of those shoes. In Jesus' name, ditch them. Ditch those shoes. You should not be walking in those shoes. Um, do better. by the grace of God. In Jesus' name. Amen. Anyway, maybe now you are thinking that my wahala is plenty, my own is too much. Because why do I always have a problem? Why am I always reporting to God? Why does God have to defend my boyfriend's actions? Am I the first person to be a girlfriend? Am I the first person to do long distance relationship? Well, if you are judging me, I have two answers for you. First is something that my friend told me some years ago. She said, while a relationship can be a beautiful thing and it can bring out the best in you, it can also bring out the worst in you. And this LDR has summoned the most irrational and intolerant parts of me. I mean, you think you're a good and level headed person until you give your heart to somebody else. Yeah, I like to see how that's going for you or how that will go for you. Second thing I'll say is nothing triggers your unresolved history like a close relationship. Not just a romantic one, like anyone where you are closely connected to the person you're in a relationship with. For me, my unresolved history, or let me just say trauma, like I'm wary of using the word because people throw it around very easily these days, but my unresolved history is always centered around distance relationship. I saw it play out previously in friendships before I even got into a relationship. And yeah, so long distance is hard for me, probably harder for me than it is for the regular person because I have history there basically. And maybe unresolved is not even the word to use to describe my situation because God knows I've come a long way. I have put in the work. I am putting in the work. I'm not where I used to be at all. Um I'm growing. I'm a much better person. So that is that about that. I did spend a lot of time on that point now, didn't I? Okay, next up on the things that I heard about LDR. They say sexual purity is easier for people in a long distance relationship. This one, you might think the obvious answer is yes. Well, true, but I don't completely agree because when you're together, like when you're physically in the same space, you are literally just a hug away from feeling loved, feeling reassured, all of that. But what do you do when you are, yeah, hopelessly far away from somebody and you're trying to like you're trying to get that closeness, that feeling of being loved and affectionately cared for. Well, from my experience, you use your mind to recreate moments that are dear to you and also possibly create new moments that did not happen. And when all you have is your mind and your imagination, um, you want to be careful. Like you don't want you don't want your mind wandering and just conjuring up stuff that are not healthy. So for this, I have an accountability partner, my friend. If my mind is going haywire, like I just let her know. Yeah. When you are able to discipline your thoughts, yes, sexual purity is easier for long distance lovers. Otherwise, you will just be asking God for forgiveness. So, what else? Being okay, another thing I've heard is that being in a long distance relationship gives you room to focus on yourself. And I absolutely agree on this point as well. When you're together, all things are chummy yummy. It's easy to think that everything is right in your life because, I mean, when done right, love is sweet. So your life will just be like peaches and rainbows, just be like all is well. Nothing is wrong. Just find yourself in your baby's arms and let the world be burning around you. You're okay. Meanwhile, there's a thorn bush growing in your backyard. Like there, you know that there are stuff, there are things you need to get done, there are personal projects, there are plans, all of that. But you're just too in love to be bothered. It's okay. When you get into a long distance relationship, you'd have more time to yourself and you have more clarity of mind for reality to sit you down and have a heart to heart conversation with you. So, also, God help you if the future of your relationship is dependent on your success where you are. Like, if what you are doing is what will determine like how soon you relocate with how soon you will reunite rather with your lover, you will be motivated, you will guide your loins, you will put in the work, you will work on yourself, you will work on your business, you will work on your ideas, everything. You will do the work. You cannot remain complacent if you are doing long distance. No, you know, long distance is not for the complacent. It's not for NFA. You will be converted. You will be a motivated and goal oriented individual. Mm-hmm. One other thing I heard is that you need to forgive quickly. And this one, I agree 200%. 200%. You cannot wait for apology before you let go of offense in a long distance relationship. You will be playing yourself because your heart will be burning, your head will be boiling. I don't know if it's only me, Sha, but my head just be hot. And the worst part is that nobody will see your demonstration. You know, if you were in the same space together, the person will see you sulking, you can slam the door, you can stamp your feet, you can just communicate aggression. But if you are in a long distance, my dear, it's only you and your mirror that will see you doing your drama. So you have to help yourself and just forgive quickly. So how do I let go of hurt when there is no apology, or worse still, the person I'm angry with does not even know I'm mad at him? Well, what I do is I just superimpose a higher perspective. Yeah, that's a big word, I know, but that's literally what I do. Cover or put on top of my own perspective a higher perspective. So I do this by probably listening to worship music, or watching a sermon, just things that bring you into God's presence and allow God to just cleanse and purge your heart of offense. I'll wrap this part up with one thing that you hear in every kind of relationship advice ever given: communication. Yes, they said for a successful LDR, you need communication, communication, and more communication. Of course, I'm not here to tell you what you already know. I'm not here to like beat that beat that drum of communication is important, blah blah blah. We all know that. And you did not come to me for information that is stale. You did come to me for cold tea. So I'm not gonna bore you with that. I will just say that the real gist is that effective communication is not always 100% possible in every season of your relationship. Some seasons get busy. Sometimes you're unable to even process how you're feeling, not to talk of communicating it. Sometimes one person is more skilled than the other. Sometimes you are learning and relearning yourself, you're learning and relearning the other person. So it just won't flow as easily, and that's just the reality. You will struggle. I'm not even, it's not a curse. And maybe it's not even everybody. Like I said, sometimes I think it's only me. I have struggled, and that's okay. I don't see it as a verdict that my relationship is coming to an end. I just see it as a phase that is part of the whole process, and you take it as it comes. I wasn't even going to include this part, like I wasn't going to share that this is something I have struggled with. But I watched a YouTube video by Maraji. Maraji is a prominent Nigerian content creator that recently became a mom of two. And she was just sharing with the world very courageously and tearfully, telling the world that she is struggling. And that gave me the permission to admit to myself and to God with tears in my eyes that I was struggling. I'm struggling in my long distance relationship. I'm struggling. But it's okay. It's okay. Just one of those things. And it's something that would say these two shall pass. So if you are in a relationship and you're not getting communication right, it's okay. It's a process. You will learn, you will get better. Sometimes it'll be harder than the other, but you'll be fine. We'll be fine. We will be fine, okay? So, on things that um I heard about long distance relationship before I got into one, I've talked about conviction, I've talked about communication, I've talked about motivation, sexual purity, whether it gets easier with time, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Now I'm just going to wrap up everything I've said with things that nobody told me, but I came to discover by myself. Um, One, I have found comfort through through dreams. I know it sounds weird. The first time this happened for me was in the first month of my long distance relationship. I was, oh my goodness, I was missing my boyfriend. I was I was hog starved. I was It was just hard. It was a hard day, and I could feel the ache in my chest, and I was so sad. I cried before I finally slept off. And when I slept, I found myself in a dream that felt so real. Like I could hardly distinguish between that dream and reality. And in the dream, I got to spend time with him. We had like a silly quarrel. We laughed. I hugged him, and I was just happy. I was very happy. And when I woke up the next morning, I felt like I had actually spent time with him physically. I felt much better. So, yeah, you might think it's a bit weird, but I found out that it is more common than you might think it is. I watched a YouTube video that reviewed the movie Inception, that one that has dream inside dream inside dream. And in the comment section of that review, people talked a lot about how they healed from grief when they had dreams about the people that they were mourning. And okay, that just made me know that it is a bit common, and a lot of them mentioned that they were not spiritual people, so it's not like it's an experience that is exclusive to religious people or to Christians. So yeah, I've had that kind of dream a couple of times afterwards, and it's usually very comforting. It bridges the distance for a while. Like when it gets really unbearable, those dreams help me. And another type of dream I've had is one where I had access to my babe's mind, or to his, no, mind just sounds crazy, but to his thoughts in a way. I had sent a message shortly before I took a nap, and in my dream, he stated very clearly how annoyed he was by the message I sent, and he just went off on me, like complained, blah blah blah. And then I woke up almost immediately after that dream, and I picked up my phone and saw that he had actually sent me a message a few minutes earlier. But to my surprise, the response in real life was the opposite of what he had told me in my dream. So I knew that
what was happening was that in reality, he was practicing self control and trying to keep the peace. So I responded to what he had said in my dream. In real life, I responded to his complaint in my dream. And then later on, I found out that he was actually upset. Um, yeah, but this one, I've not had any dream like that after that one time. But I have experienced something similar um in the place of prayer. So I will credit it to my spirituality and my Christianity. So yeah, and this leads me to my second discovery, which is the power of prayer. Cliche, I know. As Christians, prayer is something we've heard of all our lives. But for some reason, it's one of the hardest things to do. At the beginning of this year, God told me, like very matter of factly, not mincing any words, like Dotun, most of the issues you are facing in your relationship are a result of prayerlessness. It's because you're not praying. That if you would take the time to pray every day for your boyfriend and for your relationship, things would be different. And it's February now. I confess that I have fallen off the daily prayer bandwagon a couple of times, but I'm definitely praying more than I used to before. And I see the difference. So two things frequent prayer has done for me. One, it has changed me, because I think that's the first thing prayer does. It changes you. It has changed me. I don't react in the same way to situations that I used to, in the same way that I used to before. And I don't have like I don't have my tantrums as often as I used to anymore. Um, Another thing is it has given me insights into what is going on in his life that I otherwise wouldn't have known. You know how men can be sometimes, like carrying the whole world by themselves, not letting anybody know what's going on with all of that. So through prayer, I'm able to like bear a little bit of that burden um, with him. So yeah, one, dreams, two, prayer. The third thing is the sacrifice of love. In any relationship, long or short, there are times that you must put your needs on the back burner and focus on serving the other person. And um interestingly, this is something that my boyfriend like is so skilled, or I don't know if it's what is skilled, but it comes very naturally to him, like to just serve and put put other people ahead of himself. And I didn't know how much I was taking it for granted when we were physically together. But now that we're in a long distance relationship, I have also had to do the same for him, like put him ahead of myself at different times. And yeah, I think that I can say I am becoming in this regard, I'm becoming more like Jesus. Yeah, becoming more like Jesus. Because actually the only way you can sacrifice your own needs and put the other person ahead of you is by the power of the Holy Spirit and through the help of God. And that's the kind of thing that God loves to help us with, because it makes us more like him. And God would always jump on any opportunity to to transform us into the image of his son. So I pray that this is something that you would experience in in all your relationships. I pray that you would experience the help of God and the grace of God that would empower you to serve your friends, serve your partners, serve your siblings, serve your parents, serve everybody around you selflessly and sacrificially. So yeah, thank you for staying with me for wow it has been a while, hasn't it? But I'm sure that you had fun, and the things you heard here, like I say, you are not gonna hear it anywhere else because I bring the tea in a way that nobody else does. So make sure you are sharing this podcast with somebody, because I'm sure they would also find it helpful in the same way that you have. And I'll just end by mentioning again my journal. Not my journal, the journal that I have designed and put together for you, anybody who wants to nurture the lover in them, anybody who wants to grow, to be more open and affectionate in loving the people close to them and even loving themselves, growing in self-awareness, all of that. You should definitely get my journal. Get the lover girl journal or the lover boy journal, and the details would be in the show notes. So till next time, bye. Stay loving, stay open hearted.